Hello, folks out there in the beautiful world of what is this? Instagram. I am Danny Terrell. I am your host for this week's intimate conversation. I act like I am not the host all the time. I am the host all the time. Um, I'm just doing some business right now. And then I will bring in our guest, who I'm super, super, super excited about. Um, if I can actually get this all together. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are doing great. I am doing good. Um, we are here with another Instagram Live. We're about to do this thing. We are waiting. There you are. Look at you.
Look at you.
I was like, it took me a minute. I was like, do I just do a regular old t-shirt? I was like, no, let me do what
No,
I
you did
normally
not. And you
do.
got
I
your
did
lighting
not.
right and everything.
When you do this enough, you learn to get that lighting correct.
Right,
You
right,
do this
right.
enough, right? I'm just going to jump into some business really quick, and then we will move on with conversation, welcoming jumatatu Ing. Um, Folks, it's happening. Weather is changing, so if I'm coughing, it's just things are changing. So my body's adjusting to the change. We at Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, past and present. And we honor them with gratitude, and we honor the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. We acknowledge that we are on land that is stolen from the traditional home of the Coastal Salish people. The Duwamish ancestors were killed, brutalized, and stripped of their humanity. We lift up their work, we hold their pain and their joy as we honor them with our work today. Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas understand that we come from enslaved African people that endured countless acts of torture and humiliation during and after the Middle Passage, and we are still feeling that torture today. We bring into this space the thousands of Africans that did not make it to see this land. The work that we do today is on the backs and shoulders of the original people of this land and our ancestors who now guide us. We sit in this space to honor African people and their descendants and to give back to the original people of this land. To our ancestors, we thank you, we see you, we invite you into this space with us so we can lift up your names and honor you with our work. Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas is a nonprofit organization solely dedicated to presenting emerging Black arts, artists, and ideas in the Seattle area. We believe in the value of community, creativity, identity, and passion. These values serve as our strategic frame and guide our day-to-day operations and program decisions. Hi, everybody. I got the business done now. I'm excited for this guest. As you know, I'm excited for all my guests because these are just some really dope folks. Our guest today is not a Seattle native. They are living currently in Philadelphia, working in Philadelphia and New York. Let's welcome Jumatatu Ing. How are you today, love?
I'm doing all right. You know what? I need to get dressed here. Let's see what do I want to wear. Okay, this is
Ooh, ooh,
cute.
ooh. I am not that fancy. I'm so not that fancy. I love it. I love every moment of it. Um, Jumatatu statement. I am a choreographer and performer based between Philadelphia and New York, who grew up dancing around the living room at the living room and at parties with my siblings and cousins. My early exposure to concert dance was through African dance and capoeira performances on California college campuses where my Pan-Africanist parents studied and worked. But I did not start formal dance training until college with Mufadali. Did I say that right?
Umfundalai.
Mufundala. See,
And
I'll talk about that later. Sorry, Mufundala. Now I'm gonna mess this up because that's just what I do, and I'll be repeating. Just say it for me.
Kariamu.
Kariamu Welsh, contemporary African dance technique. I am sorry that I be messing up names, but I am not a wordsmith in that way. I'm not gonna lie about who I am. I am not a wordsmith in that way. I am so excited to have Jumatatu here with us. Uh, Jumatatu, instead of writing words about what Black love looks like, if you go on our Instagram page or our Facebook page, you will see this image of a Black tiny human in meditation. And that is the best representation of what Black love looks like because we need to meditate. We need to chill out. My first question for you today is, who are you bringing into this space and what are you bringing to the space with us today?
I'm bringing in I'm bringing in present we just had my family, my immediate family, we just had a little Zoom family get together. Was it last night or the night before? Anyway, I'm bringing them with me. They're always with me. Mm-hmm. And I'm bringing in the past and the future as well. Just before this conversation, actually, kind of as a warm up, I was rereading Audre Lorde's. So I'm bringing Audre Lorde. If she will come. I imagine her as being high maintenance, so I'm gonna let her be where she wants to be. I'm gonna invite her, right. And then let's see if she shows up. Right. But I was just rereading Audre Lorde's text, "Poetry is Not a Luxury," which I love, and I'll use as a warm up sometimes to remind myself of the importance of poetry, of imagination, of dreaming. Right. And of consistent attention given to that realm, that realm where feeling can help guide us toward understanding. And there's just, I just see that as so important, so right. If Audrey wants to come, I invite her in. I'm inviting in the future. I'm inviting in my descendants. I'm thinking about those folks that may find this conversation later on and need to hear, some things that we need to say, even if we're just talking, even if we're just bullshitting, which we might be. Oh, right. Sorry,
no.
Okay.
Oh no, we don't censor. Okay. We don't censor on this program.
Okay. I mean, like the even if it's that, or if there's gems that come out of what we say today, right. Those we'll talk about. But I'm thinking about those people that need this presence. I'm bringing in. You're here, but I'm bringing in you, Danny.
Thank you.
And I'm really grateful for this invitation and just happy to be here with you. I'm sad that it's not in person, but I'm happy to be here with you.
Yes. I remember, and thank you for that. And yes, whoever wants to be, the invitation is open. If y'all come into the space, we welcome you into the space. Yeah. I remember knowing about you before I met you. And the funny thing is, I'm just going to say it because I'm pretty blunt, especially white folks, if you are Black and queer and they feel like they know a super dope Black queer person, the first thing they're going to say, do you know? And I'm like, okay, well, first off,
hello.
I don't know. I want to know, but I don't know. But it's like, well, you need to know. And I was just like, okay, thank you. Because that's just how white brains work. So, um, and then my friend John Strongs, who is a white person, but one of my dear, 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 dear close friends, and the only white person that I trust in a particular way, that's real, was like, I'm taking class with jumatatu. And
Hmm.
I believe with it was jumatatu and your collaborator,
Dante.
Donte.
Yeah.
And John was like, John was like, girl, you're missing it. And so when John says that, I understand it to a whole nother level. So I had heard about you. And then one December day in New Orleans, this small conference room at the National Performance Network conference, I walk in and I see these two absolutely stunning human beings. And I was like, oh, and I was like, that person looks familiar, but okay. And then this person goes, Danny Terrell. And I was like, how do I know you? In my head. And then it's like Jumatatu. And I was just like starstruck for a moment, a long moment, a very long moment. And I was like, Jumatatu calling my name out? Like, so that is my first, that's where we first actually met. But I knew more about you before I met you. Um, and the thing that struck me is just your kindness. And we don't say that a lot to people. We don't talk about people's
Mm,
kindness. We talk about their talent, their ability, and we talk about so many other things. But kindness strikes me all the time,
mm,
um, because people don't have to be kind, and we take
mm.
that for granted.
Yeah.
But you were just so kind and just such a bright smile on your face, and so just like chilled and laid back. And I just wanted to let you know I appreciate that so much. I just appreciated that. And then Maria was with you also, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah. And so you two was just like, I said, okay, this conference is better already. Just that brief moment that we had. Um, you are an artist, you are a dancer, you're a choreographer, you're a scholar, you're a teacher, you do so many things. You do so many things, but who are you? How would you go about the world talking about yourself?
I I'm a fabulist, which the way that I use that is that I feel like I treat history like capital H history.
Mm-hmm.
And my father is a history professor, so the I'll treat it how I treat it. He'll treat it how he treats it. But
Yeah.
that I treat capital H history as one access point into establishing who we are, where we are, how we got here, etc. And
Right.
that that as a fabulist, that
Mm-hmm.
the creation of origin stories,
Mm-hmm.
um, and half truths and fantasies and lies and mysteries and
Right.
rumors, all of that creation is all a part of the history that I think that I
Mm-hmm.
recognize, and that is leading toward futures. That all of
Right.
that is impactful. um and I think especially for us, for Black queer people, it is so important to imagine histories and futures alongside
Mm.
the ones that we come to know, the ones that we come
Right.
to know undoubtedly, what that could
Yeah.
be. um I think that I'm an Aquarius. I think that that has a lot to do with me.
Right.
um I I am somebody that grew up around a lot of water. And I mean that in the
Mm-hmm.
sense, like growing up in California, and then also
Right.
growing up with a lot of water signs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the prioritizing emotion and love is not something that I think is innate to me, but it's something that I've been, throughout the course of my life, ushered toward, directed toward understanding better. That feels like a life's
Mm-hmm.
work of understanding love, understanding patience,
Right.
That has been one of the central commitments of my life that I strongly value, and it still doesn't feel innate to me, but I feel practiced in it, and will
Yes.
continue to practice it. Um, I the I am a lover, even though I'm single right now. You know, I'm claiming that identity.
Right.
I imagine a whole lot. You know, I love
Mm.
that. And I also, I'm also my rising and my moon are both in Virgo. I make a lot of lists, so I think that has a lot to do
Right.
with what I'm bringing to. Um,
Love
I
it.
think the last one I'll say is that I'm an organizer, and I think that that has everything to do with how I grew up within the Pan-Africanist community that
Mhm.
I grew up, and also what I try to build in collaboration with others with the work that I create, the performance work
Right.
and other artwork.
Right. You on your website you said something that strikes me. And I was having this conversation, I believe last night, about naming oneself. You said, I do not refer to myself as an activist now. Um, and what struck me about that is that I'm at a point in time in my life where I don't want to call myself something. I think, and then not show up in the work.
Mm,
Um, we know that like people like to name themselves and call themselves these things, and then a lot of times their actions don't match up with what they proclaim for themselves. Why do you not? And you've explained it, but telling folks, why do you not call yourself an activist now, or refer to yourself as an activist
yes. Let me preface that by saying I need to update that website.
now?
Um,
Okay.
but I think that there's still a kernel of truth in it. I think that I was talking to one of my dear friends yesterday and saying that I think the folks that know me best have space for allow plenty of space for consistently getting to know me.
Mhm.
Understanding that with every second I'm changing. I mean, we all
Yeah.
are, and so that investing in
Lost your sound.
yeah, but investing in knowing me or knowing somebody means an investment in getting to know them throughout
Right.
the time that you know them. And so I think that it's frequently I have tension around like these words. I mean, even the word artist, which I didn't mention earlier, because I feel like sometimes I like to talk around it. Like, all of those things I think contribute to me being an
Right.
artist, but there's so much hegemony around that word, like who gets to be called an artist, what that means, where you go, what kind of venues you perform at, or like share your work at or whatever.
Right.
That keep a stronghold on that word that I'm not interested in.
Right.
I mean, the same thing with audiences, art audiences, So I think that with activists, with that particular word,
Hmm.
I, I grew up in an organizing family, and my first job when I was 14, I think, was with, or maybe 15, was with the Philadelphia Student Union,
Hmm.
an activist organization in Philly that is designed toward helping secure better futures for Philadelphia students, finding more funding, working on the quality of life in these. I rode by my high school today. That thing looks like a prison. Like these
Wow.
centers that are supposed to be for education and growth are just sometimes they look like what they're designed to do.
Right.
Um, so uh so I think that the when I was over the time that I felt strongly attached to that word, I felt like I wasn't able to find the space for reflection and dreaming
Hmm.
and imagination in the world of activism, that's called that, in a way
Right.
that was in a way that felt like that felt like I needed, and also felt like the work needed. I think that there's a lot of, at least that, you know, the work that I'm drawn to, the work that different organizers, different activists are doing right now, I'm attracted to a lot of work that's happening alongside dreaming, work that's happening that understands the importance of imagination and how central that is to any movement. So I think that I don't feel as strongly as I felt about that word when I wrote that, but I still don't use it. I don't refer to myself as an act. I'll call myself an organizer, which I think is true.
Right.
But I also think that activism shows up in the spectrum of what my work is. You know, I don't deny that. I affirm that. And I think that can happen because of the way that I've been encouraged to centralize imagination in my life and in my working.
Right. I think like what you said that I really like is that it shows up in the work, and I think a lot of times um, we forget that it can show up in the work. We forget that we feel like it's an action that we have to make very prominent, and so activism organizing can look like something so simple yet still so effective. It can show up in your work without you actually forcing your work to be a work of activism. We know our bodies on stage, our bodies in performance, we're already doing the work.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you ain't got to say a word. You just walk out there and you're just like, okay, I'm doing the work. Okay. You
Right.
know, and so I just like, I like that. And I just a reminder to people that it just shows up in the work. Trying to force this thing to happen a lot of times is ineffective. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many reasons that we get called to, and when I say we, I'm thinking specifically about, you know, like we Black, queer, alien folks,
Mm-hmm.
which I lovingly refer to us as, but I think that
Right.
we get so called to create these strong, you know, like a at least strong and at most didactic affirmations around ourselves and our work and what's
Yeah.
happening in the work, because we know that those kinds of those things are already written all over our body. You know, like at the moment that we come into contact with any person, you know, that all that is inscribed all over our body anyway. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, we might as well, you know, we might as well get control of what the language is since it's going to be there
Right.
anyway. But
Right.
yeah, and I think that I understand that. I feel like I have done that so much in my life as well. And I want to, at this point, I want to invite the space for myself and for others to understand exactly what you said. You know, like that work is already happening. So how
Yeah.
do we, as opposed to putting those affirmations on top of it, how do we affirm what's already inside of it and let that
Yeah.
live and let it breathe, let it reflect, and know that, you know, like know that space, we don't always need to make that space so busy, you know, because there's already
Ooh,
plenty of stuff going on inside of it.
that is a beautiful word. We don't need to make that space so busy. And thank you for that, because that's the thing that I literally was just having that conversation with my husband of just like
Mm,
setting boundaries, and again, not making that space just because it's happening doesn't mean that I have to be involved in it. Just
mm,
because
mm.
I'm doing something, it's preserving self. I'm on this tip about preserving self. I'm
Sure.
not even thinking about self care. I'm just like, how do I preserve myself at this time?
Right.
Um, and then finding self care in that preserving of myself.
Mm,
You know, preserving of myself is cutting off the news because I don't want to hear any more tragedy about Black bodies.
yeah.
Um, Preserving myself is getting my butt off of social media and watching something silly and stupid on TV so I can laugh
Okay.
and find some
Right.
joy, you
Yeah.
know, and that type of thing. I want to talk about the work for a minute. What artists have been shut down since March? Artists. Um, what what are you moving through inside of that shutdown? What is your work moving through? I know that you were
Mhm.
working on projects and they were coming out. Are those projects still alive? Has your mind shifted? Has your intention shifted?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's a lot.
I mean, in short, yes. In short, yes. It's uh in so many ways. At the beginning of the various shutdowns before, you know,
Hmm.
and then the federal shutdown, I was, have been, and continue to be involved, though not as prominently, in an organization that we kind of just you know, assembled, called Creating New Futures,
Yeah.
which was looking at this practice, initially looking at this practice of, you know, just rampant cancellations from folks that had committed to presenting artwork, you know,
Right.
performance, and how to address the kind of careless, reckless ways that that was happening, and the severe impacts on the lives of and livelihoods of these artists that were affected. So that was one of the things that I felt called to very early,
Hmm.
which had, you know, like throughout more or less the past decade, you know, the working for artists, I don't know, flourishment, you know, like the
Right.
ability to, the ability to, I mean, you know, to survive, economically survive, but also dream a little bit, dream further than just survival, you know, like to be able to have, um, to be able to have a life that was thriving.
Hmm.
That was, you know, that's been a significant calling of mine, and that has a lot to do with the way that I approach transparency in relationship to
Right.
finances, you know, my own and the finances of my projects, especially in helping other Black queer folks, Black queer artists, to figure out how to, you know, to mire through all this mess,
Right.
um, towards something that can work, you know, something that can work for what we're trying to do, you know, for what each of us are, you know, trying to do. So yeah, so that's something that I've been on. Um, the Before the pandemic, you know, like I think I was supposed to be out of town maybe 7 months out of 2020,
Hmm.
touring, mostly touring with a project called Let Him Move You. This is a formation, which
Hmm.
is the latest project in the series called Let Him Move You, that is centering and questioning and prodding at and practicing and celebrating the form of dance called J-sette, or also called majorette,
Right.
called bucking, coming out of the southern states, that I created in partnership with Donte, who we were talking about before, Donte Beacham.
Yeah.
And you know, all of that except for one of the events, which we did virtually, which I haven't been so interested in. I mean, you know, like I'm interested in vir- virtuality has had a place in my work over the past several years. You know,
Right.
I'm interested in it, but in terms of taking a, you know, taking a work that was imagined one way and then transposing it to be virtual, I haven't been, I have not been interested in doing that, and I haven't created any virtual work, you know, these days. So I've just been trying to I've been trying to see if I could survive without having to do that, you know.
Right.
I think it's interesting. I just haven't put any energy into understanding it yet. So I just want to be,
Right.
you know, reckon with myself, understand that reality is real, and that
Yeah.
for right now, I don't need to do that. That's not what I need to be doing. Um, so all of those, except for that one, all of those performances have proposed postponements to, I think right now we're looking at like the late summer into the fall of 2021.
Right.
I mean, that's all abstract and hypothetical right now.
Where we gonna be?
Who knows where it's going to be? You know what I mean? Like, and
Right.
I'm not trying to, especially not trying to collect people inside of anywhere without a vaccine. And then, you know, even with that, you know, I don't know how people's morale is going to be, you know.
Exactly.
So I'm hopeful, and I think that the presenters that we're collaborating with are also hopeful, and just attentive, and just seeing what can happen, what it's realistic to expose ourselves to,
Right.
what feels like we're protecting ourselves and one another, and then just go from there. And I mean, this is it's changed everything. I keep going back and forth about whether I even want to apply for grants anymore, just because I mean, that's been a significant part of my economy, So
Yes.
the idea of not applying for grants anymore is very terrifying in one sense. But it's just, I mean, like I don't know how much longer um, what is it called when like you go along with something for temporary benefits? Like, I don't know.
Sustain? No.
I don't know how much longer I can, through my actions, affirm these foundations. You know what I mean? That are, I mean,
Compliant.
yeah. What'd you say?
I say compliant. Like compliant is being compliant with their practices.
That works. Yeah. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that money, I shouldn't even have to apply for that money. You shouldn't be applying for that money.
Right.
Indigenous folks should not be applying for that money anyway. You know, I mean, it's such a ridiculous, it's such a ridiculous absurdity
Right.
that we have to go through that process anyway to begin with, and then also the notion of, in some way, sharing the ownership of our work with folks and institutions. Let me just say folks, because I think sometimes for me, focusing on the institution obscures the fact that there are people running those institutions, so the
That's
folks,
real. That's so real.
sharing ownership with some folks that I don't know really if if they're affirming what I believe in. So, I mean, yeah, all of those questions. This was supposed to be the year that I started a new creative process on a new
Mm-hmm.
project between, Black and Indigenous folks from the U.S. and Brazil, and I have questions about where the funding is going to come from for that,
Right.
and also just so many ethical questions about the grounding of that work. Like, in these two ridiculous countries. It's like these two countries that I spend the most time in,
Ooh.
which
Yes.
these two countries that I probably hate the most. Like, I mean, these governments are just ridiculous.
Right. Right.
And not even just the governments, because it's, like, there's plenty of people that put those governments in office. So,
Of course.
you know.
Yes. There's first off, I just want to honor the fact because you and I probably need to talk more often. I'm in the same space of virtual programming and
Hmm.
creating something virtually. I just every time I think about it, it's like that rain cloud that comes over my head,
Yeah.
and I just can't. And I also want to honor the people that are doing the virtual work and the virtual programming. Like,
Right.
do you, boo? Do it. But it's also this need to like this thing is happening. I'm in panic mode. I need to produce something to be.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing, especially for a lot of people that I know that have been producing so much over the past few years, it is like a lot of people I talk to are just like, nah, I'm good. I'm on hold. Like, and I'm
Right.
okay being on hold. I'm
Right.
okay. Like, I don't know what this means anymore. It did not
Right.
hold the weight that it once held in my life. And just honoring that inside of you. And even the grants, like every time I like open my computer to try to look for something, I'm just like, I just, I just can't.
I feel like that when you could have stopped at I already knew, like, that
Yeah,
exact thing. It's just, like, I just don't know what to say. I just don't know what's
yeah,
on. I mean, like, yeah, it is so perplexing.
right. And how does and this is a question and also a thought. The thing that I'm thinking about is how will my black queer trans spectrum body walk back into spaces of performance when so much has happened? Like, how am I supposed to sit in front of you all and entertain y'all?
Right.
You know, and those are the things that, again, I like the questions that you're posing and the thoughts, because that's literally where my head is at. It is hard for me to watch virtual programming. It is just to that point. And again, if you are doing it, I applaud you. I
For
respect
sure.
your hustle. I respect what you're doing.
Right.
Um, but it's something now that has shifted for me
Yeah.
as an artist. It's just like, I can't, it doesn't make sense anymore.
If it yeah, yeah. I feel it like a restlessness, and
Mm.
I
Hmm.
wonder, sometimes I wonder if that's a restlessness, like my anxiety or my strong desire to become who I'm becoming, because I mean,
Right.
this is
Mm.
a huge moment of transition and transformation and growth. And I wonder if it's
Hmm.
that, like it's this eagerness to, to become, um, like for me, I feel like my strategy has been to temper that with slow and quiet and
Yes.
still, because it feels like if I'm so eager to, if I'm just so eager to become it, I'm going to become what I can already imagine. And I think that the thing that I'm being called to is to imagine differently, is to imagine
Right.
otherwise. And so in order to have the space for that, I am trying to be obedient to the stillness, to the quiet, to the slow,
Yeah.
which is a challenge. I mean, I grew up in white supremacist culture, like all of us, and so like that
Right.
is not that is not the mainstream directionality of it.
Right.
So I'm just trying to heed. I'm trying to heed that as best as I can, uh, and also be in community where that call is shared among us. Where the importance of
Yeah.
that is spread among us. Yeah, yeah.
I feel
Anyway,
you.
I feel you.
Yeah. I just want to tell the audience, the thing about why I love doing these intimate conversations is that, a lot of people are artists in their own rights. Once I talk to somebody about who they are, that becomes more important to me than their art. I think, like, the
Mhm.
times we've seen each other twice in person now, in New Orleans and in Seattle, and every time I talk to you, who you are is so important to me. Love your art. Your art is dope as hell. Love it. But who you are is so important, and that's what I want people to grasp onto, is that we admire these artists and what they're doing, and we don't get to actually sit down and understand them as a people. And that's why I love doing this particular program, because I at times I don't feel interested in talking to the art, because I'm like, do y'all realize what a dope human being you have in front of you? Like, the way their mind thinks, and so I say that to say that anybody that wants to know more about Jumatatu's art, you can. I put their website in the comment section, um, and I think you will understand Jumatatu's work by listening to this conversation. I think you will understand that, and you will appreciate the work even more, listening to the conversations. I do want to touch on two things before we run out of time.
Mhm.
How, like, J-sette for me, Detroit, we have a large J-sette community.
Mhm.
I'm from Detroit. I live in Seattle, but Detroit, being queer, I never did J-setting because I was just like, oh my god, I can't do it. It's so much, and now I'm like kind of obsessed with it. But J-sette, majoretting, you and Donte, how did you all move into this work and moving into this work, putting it into performance? And what are you thinking through during the work? During the work,
Mhm. Mhm.
what do you want the audience to think about during the work?
Hmm.
That's a lot
Well,
of questions.
well, I'll start with how Donte and I came together. Um, which was, I mean, initially, like the initial way was that I hadn't heard the title of J-sette before. This was I came to that, that name in 2010, I think. Whenever Beyonce's Single Ladies video came out, she had like, a couple
Okay.
of accounts from a choreographer, Jacquel Knight,
Yep.
who was connected to the J-sette scene. And and I and at that moment there was a Vibe magazine article that came out. I think there was like a very short ABC News spread, something like that, and maybe one other article. And at the time, in terms of academic writing, in terms of popular culture writing, there really wasn't anything else that was leading me to this, this terminology.
Okay.
But on YouTube, especially a lot of because so it's like there's the parallel worlds of the majorettes,
Yes.
at HBCUs who practice this form, and then the squads of queer, Black, mostly femme folks, mostly femme men. At least at least when the form was coming together, I think that identification would have connected.
Yeah.
So those two kind of parallel worlds that maybe over the past 5-7 years have seen more public intersection, but before that they were kind of distinct worlds publicly. And any kind of crossover was happening privately. So Donte and I came together via Donte had some of the most popular videos on YouTube. So I would always see his videos pop up, and I became interested. It felt like we had a conversation to have with one another about the ways that we were both interested in musicality and syncopation. And so I was just like, let me just reach out to this person and see what they, Donte has so many videos up on YouTube. So it took I think Donte didn't respond to the first couple of messages. And then after, I don't know, maybe a month or so, Donte responded. And then I invited Donte in to just come into a couple of rehearsals and just sit and observe this project that I had been working on at the time, so that we could just converse about, like, what one another was working on, and like what we were, who we were really. I mean, this whole process has been a getting to know you process over the past decade that we've been working together.
Wow.
Really just a slow, tentative getting to know you, where there were various periods where it felt like we might not be getting to know one another anymore. That might be, it might be over.
Yeah.
Because it's just, because it took some time to be able to understand one another's language, to be able to approach something that felt like the same language. And I don't know if we ever felt like we were on a trajectory that was guiding us to become friends, but we're super close friends now. I mean, like we're good Judies, But that was, but we would never have like, if I had been inviting Donte in to do this piece, and we're going to do this project for a year, and, and that's it. I can never have hoped for the getting to know you that has been able to happen over this expanse of time. And that time, that kind of time has a lot to do with this show. I mean, it's like, one of the things that I love about J-sette is this kind of paradox of time. It's like you stand in this position. Let me get up and show you.
You better demonstrate. You better give us a demo.
So you stand, not a full demo. I would just stand at a position of attention, and you could be there for like a grip. What I mean? Like you'll be there for a grip, and then when you start dancing, you are like 5. So like it's on. It's like 0 to 100, 0 to 100, and that kind of that was so interesting and appealing and inspiring. And somebody show me. Check out my website. I'm still healing from an injury, so so that won't be today. but yeah, but that 0 to 100 is so compelling. And
Right.
also just, I'm getting all off track, but it's making me think about, I was at I was just in North Carolina visiting a friend who has 2 dogs. Those dogs slept for 90% of every day, just laid out, just
Right.
relaxing, you know. And then when, you know, when they hear something, they're up, you know. It's like, you know, like they whip to action so immediate, you know.
Right.
That like kind of 0 to 100 is possible because they rest, because they rest so goddamn long, you know what I mean, like so much of the day, so that when they go, it's like, you know, they can do that, they can be at that
Right.
moment of expression. I feel like there's something about that kind of partnership that I'm interested in people engaging with this work, with the way that we've been looking at J-setting, the way that we've been interpreting and, you know, like transforming this, you know, like what is it to be at 0? What is it to be at 100?
Right.
What if we were at 50? You know, like these kinds of questions in relationship to all of the Let Him Move You works happen in the same space as people that are witnessing the work,
Right.
you know. And so in that sense, everybody's a participant. And so hoping that people can engage with that kind of embodiment through that, you know. And I'm also like, I also feel like it's so, there's the form itself, J-set, you know, it invites in so much deep exploration of sexuality and sensuality as much as it does of
Yeah.
musicality. And I feel like we're really explicit about that. And it's also, you know, I mean, I think that we're moving through all kinds of epic knowledge in our body. And so in that sense, it feels like it's for people throughout the ages of life, this work.
Right.
And so it's, you know, one of the ways that I describe it is it's performance. These are, you know, these are family shows with nudity and sexual themes, you know.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, I mean, I feel so strongly about the importance for young people to come into a world where they can be liberated, not liberated is the wrong word, and curious is like, you know, it's getting there, but, you know, it's like where they can, where they have a space for that in their lives, that is not just the space of shame, that is not just the space of punishment, that is not just the space of law, you know, but like that they have the space for a consensual understanding and appreciation of that kind of bodily joy, you know,
And
even
moving into identity, I think moving into like the various forms of how their identity shows up. I
early.
think, yes, I think J-Set challenges people inside of that also, is like, how does your identity show up?
Right.
And sorry to cut you off, but that just kept like going in my head, like identity. And when I watch especially queer bodies in performance of J-Set, you have to have a certain power in your fuck you-ness of people viewing you. Like, you cannot take on that dance form in a queer body timid.
Yeah.
So I think it also shows young people how to be strong and assured in who you are. You know, it's a strength. It's almost as sensual as it is. It reminds me of Vogue, also other queer dance forms and whacking, that it's a fight.
Yeah, right. It's a battle culture.
Yes, it's a battle of societal norms and things like that. Just my thoughts. Sorry to cut you off. It was just like
well, yeah. And the way that it happened in the J-set context, the way that it happens, the team is central, you know, and the kind of relationship to captain and then the rest of the team that lines up behind the captain, you know, in the traditional J-set construction, you know, that's how it happens. And then you face off another captain and team. But it's just like you said, like every individual has to show up. And so
Yeah.
while there is this intricate unison that, you know, I mean, you're responsible for, and two, nobody is going to do it exactly in the same way that you are. And that's by
Right.
design, and that's crucial. And if everybody is, then it's not J-sette. You know, I mean, then it becomes something else, which could be really cool, but it's not, you know, but it's
Right.
not that, you know. And we also explored that too, you know, like what are those edges? What's the
Yeah.
edge at which, you know, we're like right on the cusp of practicing this form? And then what happens when we step over that? Or what happens when we're firmly in the center of it? You know, all of that space, this space of innovation around the innovation of
Right.
this form. It feels like that's what these forms are designed to do, to invite continuous innovation.
Yes. 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 I'm just gonna put in a plug. If you are looking for an extra, almost 50-year-old queer body, I'm just saying.
I thought we had already settled that. Aren't you gonna? I thought you were already gonna be in it when we hit Seattle.
Okay, I'm just confirming. It could be
Okay.
before Seattle because she ain't doing much right now. She, you know, it could be before
Okay.
Seattle. I'm just putting that out there. We are getting close to time. I do want to mention that you do study sessions, field stories, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
This is really it's a series a series of conversations that happens on Monday nights in both
Mm-hmm.
English and Portuguese with artists practicing in from Turtle Island, artists from the land known as Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
in which the invitation that I extend really is to imagine, you know, and there are a couple of prompts that I invite people to start from, and then from there, what I do is like they create an imaginary, you know, in front of, you know, like the virtual folks that are watching, and then I'll accompany that by asking questions that get at, you know,
Yeah.
how do you get your love? How do you get your nourishment? How do you get your protection? How do you get your community? You know, like how do we fill out and contour this
Mm-hmm.
imaginary?
Right.
And hopefully through that, you know, really having the space to create validity around these dreams, around these imaginations, because they are crucial, and it's so crucial for Black and Indigenous folks to be doing that. So they happen on Monday nights.
We
At
have one coming up this Monday.
They happen at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Pacific time,
Mm-hmm.
10 p.m. if you are in Brazil, most of Brazil.
Awesome. And this Monday you have
Devin and Marie.
thank you. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, I'm gonna jack up a name, so let me not even. I'll be putting extra syllables on there, and you can find field stories where again?
It's so you can if you follow me on Instagram and my
Mm-hmm.
Instagram account jumatatu po, you can find it there. I recommend also watching on Facebook, because we have live
Yeah.
captioning there, and then there every couple of weeks we also have an ASL interpreter and a Libras interpreter. Libras is the Brazilian Sign Language.
Awesome.
Oh
We are
yes,
running
yeah,
close on
so
time. Go ahead.
on Facebook, you can find, you can accompany the show on my Facebook page, which is Jumatatu Impo.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Juma. Just a few things before I ask you the final question. Again, I just appreciate you taking the time. I know it's like 6 o'clock, almost 7 o'clock there, and you know it's chill out time, and we're still like, oh, it's afternoon. Let's go have fun. Next week, everyone, we have Jalen Scott. She is the executive director of the Lavender Rights Project and the Black Trans Task Force here in Seattle. She is a Black Trans executive director. I love Jalen, so please tune in so you can find out more about both organizations. Again, next week, Intimate Conversations, 3 p.m. on Instagram Live. Jumatatu Po, if you all want to donate, and you know folks that need to donate to Jumatatu, not to create work, just to live, financials at jumatatu.org. That can be found on PayPal. So please, you know, I always tell folks, give to artists and don't expect anything in return. Give to Black artists, don't expect anything to return. Give to Black queer artists and expect nothing in return. Sometimes we just need money to rest. You are welcome, Sharon. Thank you. Sharon's our executive director.
Yeah,
Hey, Sharon.
thank you.
Um,
Good to see you in this way, Sharon.
yes. My last question for you. I This conversation's been joyful, so there's nothing. It's been real and joyful, but I always ask this question because I think Black joy is important. I think Black joy, we need to talk about that more. So what is your joy?
My joy. My joy is my little nibblings, my little niece and nephews,
Mm,
and the moments when they I have been able to see them from time to time, especially lately, in the
hmm
toward the toward this end of the pandemic time, because they've been like super quarantining, and I have pretty much as well. So I'm thankful that I get to hug them right now.
Okay.
And that just brings me so much joy and reminds me just of how important touch is. So
Mm,
crucial
mm.
to
Yes.
humans. We need that.
Yeah. Especially for those of us that were not receiving it before quarantine, and
Hmm.
yes, that simple touch will change the world, and little ones will change the world. We talked about that
Hmm.
earlier today.
Right.
Thank you for sharing your joy. We will talk more
Yeah.
offline about stuff. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jim Tatsupo.
You too.
Anything? There's field stories. There's a study session field stories. Anything else people should be tuning into that's coming up from you, or you want people to be aware of?
With me, I'm sure there is. I just can't think. I know there is. Please follow, like sign up on my newsletter, follow me on
Yes.
Instagram, and I'll keep you updated. I'm sure there's stuff, I just can't think of it.
You and I are so much alike. It is so funny. Every time I talk to you, because I will be there, I'm like, I don't know, I'm doing something. I
Right,
will
right.
post it somewhere, just follow it. I can't tell
I
you
know,
what it
right,
is.
right, right.
Oh my God, that is so funny. You and I are so much more like this, but I am thinking of, like, yes, I'll be the same way. Like, I don't know people.
Right,
All
but it's
right.
it's coming, it's
You
coming.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next week again. Follow Jumatatu Po at jumatatu.org, Jumatatu Impo on Facebook, and Jumatatu on Instagram, Jumatatu Impo on Instagram. I will talk to you soon, Juma. Love you dearly. Thank you
Love
so
you
much for
too.
doing this. Great to see you, and I'll see y'all later.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for these conversations, Danny.
Oh, you're welcome.
Beautiful
You're welcome.
leadership of them.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.